Hello, my name is Becky Morales, and today I'm going to be talking about Angela Valenzuela, who is a professor, a published scholar, a community advocate, especially for Latino and Chicano students. She is a policy activist, she is a court expert on curriculum, and she also runs a popular blog called Education, Equity, Politics, and Policy in Texas. Angela Valenzuela started studying in Texas in the 1980s, getting first her bachelor at Angelo State University in English, then her master's from UT Austin in sociolinguistics. Then she moved on to get another MA and a PhD in sociology at Stanford. When she finished her studies, she became a professor at various different schools, including Rice University, University of Houston, UT Austin, and then a Fulbright scholar and visiting law professor in Guanajuato, Mexico. She also was a visiting professor at Boulder and at Beijing University. She has been a professor for more than 30 years, and she really enjoys it. Throughout her career, she has taught at both the undergraduate and graduate level. This is a sampling of some of the classes that she has taught at the different universities. In her website, in her writing, in her articles, in her interviews, she mentions multiple times that as a professor, she intentionally listens deeply and actively to her students, because she wants to model to her students the role that teachers should be playing. She has discovered when the classroom experience goes well, students experience trust, and the classroom is a safe place, and they feel that it's safe. So instead of avoiding difficult conversations in her class, she tries to do so in an attentive and respectful way, while she's trying to build relationships between herself and the students, and even relationships amongst the students themselves. So she really tries to foster this caring and empathy in her classes that she writes about as well in her published pieces. At the same time that she held these academic positions, she also was deeply involved in educational leadership and policy at various organizations. For example, you can see the University of Texas at Austin, the Center for Mexican American Studies. She has been involved in that center since the year 2000. She's also been co-editor for multiple academic journals, such as the ones that you see here. She plays an important role in Texas educational policy, and she is on the board for multiple different organizations related to education in Texas and nationwide. Valenzuela is a very accomplished and very prolific author, writing lots of books and lots of journal articles. Here are three of her most popular books for teachers. The third book that I mentioned here is called Subtractive Schooling. This book is actually a 3-year ethnographic case study that addresses the experiences of students in a particular inner city high school in Houston that was mainly Latino and Chicano students. It proved to be a natural laboratory for the questions of assimilation. So it addresses the concerns related to assimilationist policies, practices, and ideologies, and how these affect students' identities and the qualities of the relationships that they have at school, both with the teachers and their classmates. So subtractive schooling is a concept that Valenzuela mentions in her book and also in many of the journal articles that she writes. This is the process by which schools diminish students' cultural and linguistic resources and capital that they're bringing into the classroom. Schools are prioritizing assimilation into the dominant culture, and this leads to a loss of their own cultural identity and social capital. Meanwhile, she is arguing that students should be building upon the cultural backgrounds of Mexican and Chicano students instead of erasing and subtracting their heritage. Another main concept that she mentions in her writing is the politics of caring, whether it's authentic versus aesthetic caring. So she defines authentic caring as genuine, reciprocal relationships between teachers and students. And these relationships recognize and validate cultural backgrounds, while aesthetic caring focuses on superficial indicators like discipline and attendance without addressing the deeper cultural and emotional needs. So what's happening in schools that have subtractive schooling and that have only aesthetic caring is that the students are feeling disconnected from the school environment. Their motivation decreases, and when their cultural identities are not valued, students perceive the school as unwelcoming or even a hostile place, and that leads to further disengagement both socially and academically. There's also an erosion of trust when they're only being superficially cared about, and teachers are not genuinely listening to students or showing this authentic care. Students stop trusting their teachers and honestly stop trusting the educational system as a whole. And they see school as being done to them rather than for them or with them. Both of these can lead to a loss of motivation. When students' languages, histories, and identities are invalidated, their intrinsic motivation to succeed academically often declines. Schools become more just like about compliance rather than meaningful learning or kind of like self-development. And then by failing to recognize or honor students' cultural backgrounds and linguistic backgrounds and their voices, schools are perpetuating systemic inequalities. Students from marginalized groups are positioned as like deficient instead of being recognized for the rich capital and resources that they possess and they bring to the classroom. Angela Valenzuela has not only written about honoring students' cultural backgrounds, but she really took action by developing her Academia Cuauhtli. Cuauhtli means eagle in Nahuatl, which is an indigenous language in Mexico. And they named it this because they were admiring its strength, beauty, and majestic flight. This is a very unique language and cultural revitalization project in Austin, Texas. And it's a partnership between lots of different organizations where Valenzuela volunteers. It's also a partnership between the Tejano History Curriculum Project, the University of Texas at Austin, and the National Latino Education Research and Policy Project. And also it partners with the Austin Independent School District, AISD. So they teach this incredible class on Saturdays from 9 to noon to local students. Her goals were to build a sense of community, of connectedness to the past, while emphasizing topics that are relevant today to Latino and Chicano students, such as migration, immigration, local history, civil rights, also indigenous heritage, and cultural arts. So the teachers teach the curriculum completely in Spanish with culturally relevant pedagogy. So hopefully you have a clearer picture of what Angela Valenzuela stands for and what she advocates for. And I think that this not only applies to our Latino students, but honestly for all of our students, because all of their voices need to be heard and they all need to be cared about and loved in our classrooms. Thank you very much.